Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast, Adoption, Love, and Life with Kaylin. I am solo today. I do not have a special guest today, but I thought I would get on here and, man, I'm winded just to going down the stairs. But I thought I would get on here and do like a Q&A. I have been asked so many questions for years, the same question, at least 4 to 5 questions throughout my life, and the same questions that I've had on this podcast. I had my parents on here and my brother, which I was so excited. We actually have not talked about our adoption in such a long time. I was a little bit nervous, but it was so good to hear his side and his perspective about his own adoption. And there's some things that I didn't even know about. So I loved it. If you haven't watched any of my episodes, I'm just going to give you a quick little background of where my life started. I was adopted at the age of 8 in Russia in a city called Veliki Luki. And I lived in an orphanage for 8 years of my life there. My parents adopted me, and then I stayed with the family for a week, and then they went to go get my brother, and then we all flew out together and flew back to the United States, and we've been here 30 years. And finally, I'm sharing my story and into more detail about my adoption, and hopefully to give a different perspective through an adoptee. And I also interview other adoptees and hear their stories. I am learning so much already, and I'm so excited for my other guests to come on here, kind of talk about my orphanage a little bit more in detail through my perspective. And this is an episode that I actually have not been wanting to do, because it's something that I don't talk about very often, but it will be good. So just be patient with me. The main questions that I've always been asked is, do I remember my orphanage and my life in the orphanage? And I do. I remember just a few. I also have blocked a lot of my memories and my emotions out, just because it was a very sad place. So my orphanage, just a little bit about it. It was very isolated, very poor place. The teachers or the ladies that worked there, they literally just worked there just to get their paycheck. It was very strict. I remember it was an all-girls orphanage. I remember we would wear dresses with like white collared edging on them, with a big bow on top of our head, and short hair, like boy cut hair. When my parents adopted me and my brother, and we were meeting lots of people, they would always say, "Oh, you adopted 2 cute boys." And so my mom finally had to pierce my ears because obviously I look like a boy. So, short hair, strict. I mean, I just remember being really sad, lonely, alone a lot, shy. I just did what they asked. I think one of the nights, like at nighttime, like you can't just get up and go to the restroom. You literally have to ask permission to go. And I was like, I gotta go. And I remember coming back, and we had these hallways that would have rooms that would go in and out left and right. And there was tons of bunk beds, and I'd be at the top bunk. I remember running back because I was getting yelled at. for going to the bathroom and not asking permission. I do remember that. Two of the other memories I do have is one of them, I had a best friend that I would always hang out with. We did everything together. And I remember the day that I left the orphanage, I was getting in the car and I was eating animal crackers. And I was sitting in the back seat with my parents and they were so happy. But I just didn't know what was happening really. And I remember sitting there and I looked up and she was at the window inside the orphanage and she was waving goodbye and I was waving goodbye and we both were crying. And I thought, why can't she come with me? Like, why isn't she coming with me? And it was so sad because she was like one of my best friends. Another story that I will always remember and cherish, and this is a very happy one, and I did mention it in my previous episodes, but I remember the day that I met my parents, and I remember them telling me just to go in a room and they'll come in, and all they said was, oh, these two people are going to take you away. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay. And I remember them coming in and I was just sitting there very shy and very scared. And my mom was so happy and my dad was so happy. And they came closer to me and I stood up and they just gave me the biggest hug. And I never felt that in the 8 years that I was in the orphanage. And so I was like, what is this feeling? This is weird. But man, I think my heart was healed just a little bit and I loved it. And then my dad gave me a hug. And I remember just crying and I just remember feeling, I want to feel like this again. And I want it more and more and more. And that's when my life changed for the better. Even though it was really, really scary, that's when my life changed. So that's a good memory. Another question that I always get asked is, do I know my birth parents? And have I ever met them? I do not know my birth parents face to face. I know their names. And have I ever met them? No. Have I ever searched for them? That's the next question that always comes up. I have searched for them and I cannot tell you what year it was because I still have mom brain and the years kind of mix. But I think it was when I was dating my husband and when I got married. It took some time. It took, I think, 2 years for this company to try to find my parents. And unfortunately, they could not find them. So I kind of like gave up on it. And yeah, I was really sad because I would go to people's houses when I was younger. And even like my best friends that I grew up with, and they would show me pictures of them when they were little and or videos of their parents that recorded them, their first tooth or, going to the bathroom, like potty training, just as babies, just pictures of babies. And you also would have the parents there too in a lot of the pictures. And it made me really sad because I never had that. I don't have baby pictures of me. I don't have pictures of my parents. I don't have anything. I don't have my first tooth. I don't have, those cute little memories growing up as a baby and a toddler. My kids, though, man, they're going to have so many pictures when they leave my house. I have books. I scrapbook. I take tons of pictures. And when they were babies, I would take so many pictures. And I think it was because I don't have any. And so I just want them to remember when they were babies and toddlers and what they did, the silly things that they did, the funny things that they would say. I really cherish those moments with my kids. Another question that I get asked is, do I have any siblings? This is a really hard subject for me to talk about. I definitely have my brother, of course, that my parents adopted. He is not my biological brother, but he's my brother. And I think it was when I was younger and in high school, my parents have some papers about my adoption, about kind of like the beginning of like when I was born, and a little bit of details when I was in the orphanage, and then my parents are on there. But back then they didn't keep the greatest records, and so it's just like 1 or 2 pages about me. And in high school and elementary, I really didn't ask about my parents a lot. And I think in high school I would read it, but I never like processed it or comprehended it, like what it actually meant. Until I got to college, that's when I really like wanted to find out like who I am, where am I going, like what do I want for my life. And I started having this crisis identity issue. And I don't remember a particular time where I found out, where I asked my parents, and I don't know why I never asked, but I asked my mom and my dad if I had siblings, and she was like, no, you don't have any. I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And then that's when I found out as well that my birth mom aborted all of her kids, and she tried to abort me, and I survived. I was 3.1 pounds, and I stayed in the hospital for a year, and then I went into an orphanage till I was 5, and then moved to a different orphanage, which was in Vilikiluki, until I was 8, and then that's when my parents adopted me. To find out that I don't have any siblings, and also don't know if I ever will meet my parents, was really hard for me. It just is something that I have felt really lonely and alone about for a long time, because I'll never probably be able to find out anything about me or anything about my ancestries or anything like that. And that's just like really hard. But I'm so grateful that I'm here, and I'm so blessed that I'm here. Whoever kept me alive is amazing. I'm so grateful. I definitely went through a lot of emotions. And that is another topic that a lot of people have asked, very close family and friends have asked, but it's not a question that I was going to bring up, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. But one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, how did I cope with all of my emotions and the whole transition and feelings of everything? I think what really helped me was writing in my journal. I have over 32 journals, and I still write to this day. And when I was in elementary school, I was going through a lot of transition. The school, the friends, just everything. Life in general literally just turned upside down for me, but at the same time, the best thing that ever happened to me too. But there was a lot of emotions, and there was a lot of feelings, and there was lots of things that came up that I didn't know how to just take it all in and express my feelings, because I never did for the 8 years. And journaling really, really helped me. And I would just write down, I have made friends in elementary school, but some of them look at me different when they find out that I'm adopted, and they treat me different. High school was not as much. I had an amazing group of friends, and I am so blessed and lucky to have that, because I know it's so hard these days to have some good friends. And I am so blessed that I had good friends. And I felt like I didn't go through a lot, but I did at the same time. There would be triggers something would happen and it would trigger me. And that's when I would write in my journal of why I was feeling that way. I think one of the hardest transitions for me was to let people in and to love my family and friends. And it's not to love them, but to, what is the word? If I walked up to a stranger, I would not be easy to give them a hug. I just was not like that. I never had physical touch until I was 8 years old. So my mom taught me how to love people and how to show love to those that love you back. And that was the hardest lessons that I had to learn, but one of the greatest lessons I had to learn too, because I've had amazing people in my life, and they have changed me as well. And my parents, not only journaling helped me, but my parents were so good to talk to me about every question that I had. Even when I got older, I, felt a little bit more scared to ask personal questions, or when I wanted to search for my parents were always so supportive. And I think that's what really has helped me as well, is to become who I am today. I am very open book. I will tell you how it is, and I can express my emotions and feelings pretty well because of them. So yeah, I think that's all the questions that I have. I feel like if I go a little bit further, I could be on here for another 40 minutes. But if you guys have any questions for me about my orphanage or just anything, comment, share my podcast, please. I would love to have more adoptees to talk about just life and learn from each other. I am so excited for my next episode, and I hope that you guys will watch it. And I will see you guys next time. Well, see ya.